I was planning to finish our recent discussion of espresso baskets and shower screens by explaining the various shapes and hole patterns and coatings and such, and the theory and reality behind all of that. But before we talk about which baskets would suit you best, there's an obstacle which I think deserves its own short video.
Oh my God.
It's like a miracle.
Whatever size or shape or type of basket you have, there is an ideal volume that the coffee should occupy. Baskets are tapered. If you underfill one, the tamp might grab the inside surface before the coffee is compressed properly. So the puck might end up loosely packed despite how firm the tamp feels. On the other hand, during a shot, hot water causes the coffee particles to expand. If you overfill a basket, the coffee will press against the shower screen, increasing flow resistance. So you might see a familiar reading on your pressure gauge, but the water isn't necessarily flowing through the coffee as intended. So how do you know if you've got the right fill? Notice that the shower screen intrudes into the basket. Ideally, you want a gap of 2 to 2.5 millimeters between the bottom surface of the screen and the top surface of the coffee. This is the sweet spot. It gives the coffee enough room to expand while allowing for a proper tamp without interference from the basket itself. You can't see the gap that I'm talking about, but you can measure it. I have a couple of coins here. One is 1.9 millimeters thick, and the other is 2.3 millimeters. I'll use them a bit like feeler gauges. I place one on the tamped puck and put the shower screen on top. Press gently around the outside. You could damage a screen if you apply too much force at the center. I want a headspace gap such that the thinner coin leaves no impression and the thicker coin leaves a faint to moderate one. That will put the gap distance somewhere between 1.9 and 2.3 millimeters, which is fine. So now that you know how to measure the gap, you can start dialing in. It's tempting, but wrong, to start dialing in with an arbitrary weight, like from a recipe, and dial in your other variables off of that. Coffees differ substantially in density, so there is no particular weight that suits a particular basket. Let me show you. I'll put two 15-gram doses of different coffees into the same basket, which is labeled 15 grams capacity. Both doses weigh exactly the same to 1/10 of a gram, yet they clearly occupy different volumes. So when you change coffees, the ideal weight for a shot will often need adjustment too. For any given basket, the volume stays the same for all coffees. The weight becomes variable. Obviously, once you establish a suitable volume for this or that coffee, you'll need to find out how much it weighs so that you can measure doses conveniently with a scale. I'm not saying don't weigh, I'm just saying don't start with an arbitrary weight and work off of that. So, how do we make this conveniently repeatable? Your choice of tamp is important. This type with a thin base doesn't work well. It's difficult to judge the depth and the angle, so not recommended. But this style of tamp, which is very common, has a thick tapering base. Notice that there is a relationship between the tamp and the shower screen. The tamp occupies a similar volume. When I put a 2 millimeter thick coin under the shower, I'm looking at the distance that I want to establish between the screen and the puck. All I need to do now is transfer this distance to the tamp, which becomes a depth gauge. Based on this distance here, you'll want the upper edge of the tamp to sit slightly below the rim of the basket when the dose is compressed. That will give you the ideal amount of headspace. And the best part is, this is something you can feel. Get used to this and you can do it blindfolded. One good quality hand tool is all you need, and a little bit of skill. The amount of force you apply will affect puck resistance, hence shot times, hence flavor, but it won't affect your fill noticeably. So if you're having trouble with puck prep, resist the temptation to spend even more money on costly paraphernalia. Something like this is designed to permit cafe owners to hire unskilled bar staff. Move away from the gizmos and gimmicks and back towards solid technique based on understanding the problem. Yes, there is some trial and error, some intuition, and some skill involved here. But now you can see what you're aiming at, so you can nail it, and you will. Cheers!